out of my own son's wedding, then I made a speech that changed everything forever. Hello. My name is Evelyn Parker, and I am 50 years old. I have lived what I thought was a full life. I raised 5 beautiful children. I built a marriage that has lasted 3 decades. I weathered storms that would have broken lesser women. I celebrated victories that seemed impossible. But today, I am here to tell you about the single most humiliating, heartbreaking, and ultimately empowering moment of my entire existence. Before I start, I need you to know something. This is not a story I tell lightly. For months, I kept this locked away inside me, buried so deep that even I could barely touch it. I told myself it was private, that it was not anyone's business, that airing family pain in public was something decent people simply did not do. But I have come to understand something profound. My silence only gives power to shame. And I will not carry that anymore. I refuse to carry it. This is the story of the day my son threw me out of his wedding. Not metaphorically. Not emotionally, though that was certainly part of it. I mean literally, physically, in front of 300 people. In front of his bride. In front of my own extended family and friends. In front of my husband of 30 years. In front of people I had known my entire life. And what happened next, well, that is why I am here today. That is why I am standing before you, or sitting here with you, sharing this story that still makes my hands shake when I think about it. I never thought I would be the kind of person who would broadcast their family pain to the world. I was raised to be private, to keep things inside, to smile through the hurt and pretend everything was fine. But I have learned that sometimes, the most courageous thing we can do is tell the truth. The whole truth. Even when it is ugly. Even when it hurts. Even when it makes us vulnerable in ways that terrify us. So here it is. Everything. To understand where we are going, you need to understand where we have been. Let me take you back, not just to the wedding day, but to the very beginning of everything. To the foundation of this story. To the moment my life truly began. My son, Michael, was born on a bitterly cold February morning in 1996. I was 22 years old. 22. Still practically a child myself, if I am being honest. I was scared. I was unprepared. I was absolutely certain I had no idea what I was doing. His father, my husband Richard, had only been in my life for 2 years when I found out I was pregnant with Michael. We were young. We were in love, or at least we thought we were. We tried to make it work. We really did. Richard was different then. He was ambitious, driven, working long hours to build his career in finance. He wanted to provide for us, to give us the life he had never had growing up. And I loved him for that. I loved his dedication, his strength, his refusal to give up even when things got hard. But those long hours meant he was rarely home. It meant that when Michael was born, when he was crying at 2 a.m, when he needed to be fed and changed and held, Richard was not there. He was at the office. He was chasing his dreams. And I was alone with a tiny human who depended on me for everything. So Michael and I became a team. Just the two of us, in those early years, against the world. While Richard was building his empire, I was building a relationship with our firstborn son. I was the one who knew Michael's every cry, every need, every preference. I knew when he was hungry versus when he was tired. I knew how to soothe him when nothing else worked. I knew his favorite lullaby, the exact way to rock him, the precise temperature his bottle needed to be. I poured everything into Michael. Everything. Every ounce of energy I had, every moment of attention I could give, every drop of love in my body. Because Richard was not there to share the load, and because I wanted Michael to feel loved, to feel safe, to know that even if his father was absent, his mother was always, always present. And then Emily came along a year later. My beautiful, compassionate Emily. And suddenly I had 2 babies, both in diapers, both needing me constantly, and Richard was still working those endless hours. I remember feeling like I was drowning. Like I was being pulled under by the sheer weight of responsibility. But I kept swimming. Because that is what mothers do. We keep going even when we are exhausted beyond measure. Over the next 5 years, Daniel, Olivia, and Joshua joined our family. 5 children. 5 beautiful, demanding, wonderful children, all born within 6 years of each other. And through it all, Richard was the provider. He was the one who brought home the paycheck that kept us fed and housed. He was the one who worked 14-hour days so I could stay home with the kids. And I was grateful for that. I truly was. But it also meant that I was the primary parent. I was the one who bandaged scraped knees and helped with homework and attended school plays and drove to soccer practice and made Halloween costumes and stayed up all night when they were sick. Richard loved our children. I never doubted that. But he loved them from a distance, while I loved them from the trenches. And of all my children, Michael was special. Not because I loved him more, please understand that. I loved all my children with the same fierce, protective intensity. But Michael was my first. He was the one who made me a mother. He was the one I learned on, the one I poured all my fears and hopes into. And because of that, because of those early years when it was just the two of us, we had a bond that was different from the bonds I shared with my other children. Michael was a good kid. A great kid, really. Smart, funny, kind-hearted. He had his father's dark eyes and strong jaw, but he had my smile, my sense of humor, my tendency to overthink everything. Every time he smiled at me, I felt like I had done something right in this world. I felt like all the sleepless nights and the exhaustion and the sacrifices were worth it. I gave Michael everything I had. Every penny I could spare went into making sure he had opportunities one never had. Piano lessons. Summer camps. The best schools we could afford. I wanted him to have choices. I wanted him to know that the world was bigger than our little suburban neighborhood, that he could be anything, do anything, achieve anything. When Michael was 10, Richard finally started slowing down at work. He had climbed the ladder. He had achieved his goals. And he started coming home for dinner. He started coaching Joshua's little league team. He started being present in a way he had not been before. And I was happy about that. I was. But by then, the patterns were set. The children came to me with their problems, their questions, their needs. Richard was the fun parent, the weekend parent. I was the one they relied on for everything else. Michael was especially attached to me. Even as he grew older, even as he became a teenager and started pulling away in the way teenagers do, there was still this thread connecting us. This unbreakable bond. Or so I thought. When Michael turned 16, something shifted. Teenagers pull away from their parents. I know this. I had 5 children go through adolescence. But with Michael, it felt different. It felt personal. He started spending more time in his room, not talking to me. When I asked him about school or his friends or his life, he would give me one-word answers. He would look at me with this expression I could not quite read, something between frustration and resentment. Richard told me it was normal, that Michael was just becoming a man, that I needed to give him space. And I did. I backed off. I gave him room to grow. I told myself I was doing the right thing, being the kind of mother who respected her son's independence. But inside, I was terrified. Because if Michael did not need me anymore, then who was I? For 16 years, being Michael's mother had been my primary identity. And now he was pushing me away, and I did not know how to be anything other than what I had always been. Michael went to college in New York, at Columbia University. 4 hours away from our home in Connecticut. I was so proud of him. He was the first person in my family to attend an Ivy League school. The first person to achieve something so remarkable. But those 4 years were lonely. He came home for holidays, but he was different when he was home. Distant. Like he was just visiting, not coming home. Like our house was a hotel and I was the friendly concierge, not his mother. After graduation, he stayed in New York. He got a prestigious job at a financial firm, following in his father's footsteps in a way that made Richard beam with pride. Michael moved into an apartment in Manhattan, started building a whole life that I was not part of. He had friends I had never met, hobbies I knew nothing about, experiences he did not share with me. And I told myself that was okay. That was healthy. That was what growing up looked like. My other children were going through similar transitions. Emily was in medical school. Daniel was traveling through Europe, finding himself. Olivia was pursuing her art degree in California. Joshua was still at home, finishing his senior year of high school, but even he was pulling away, preparing to leave. I should have been happy. My children were thriving. They were becoming independent, successful adults. But instead, I felt hollow. Like I had spent 28 years building something, and now it was being dismantled piece by piece, and I did not know who I was without it. Richard tried to help. He would suggest we travel, take up new hobbies, enjoy our empty nest. But he did not understand. He had his career. He had his identity outside of being a father. I had spent nearly 3 decades defining myself entirely through my children. And now they were leaving, and I was lost. Then, about 2 years ago, on a quiet Sunday evening in October, Michael called me. He sounded nervous. I could hear it in his voice, that slight tremor that meant he had something important to say. He was 28 years old, and he still got nervous calling his mother. That should have told me something about our relationship, but I was just happy to hear from him. He had not called in 3 weeks, and I had been starting to worry. "Mom," he said, and I could picture him pacing in his apartment, running his hand through his hair the way he always did when he was anxious. "I want you to meet someone. Her name is Rachel." My heart swelled. I had been waiting for this moment. Waiting for him to find someone, to fall in love, to let me back into his life through this new person. Maybe Rachel could be the bridge that reconnected us. Maybe through her, I could finally know my son again. Maybe loving her would give me access to him in a way I had not had in years. "I would love that," I said, trying to keep my voice calm even though my heart was racing. "When can we meet her?" We arranged to have brunch in the city 3 weeks later. Richard drove me into Manhattan, dropped me off at a restaurant I could never afford on my own, the kind of place where a simple omelette cost $30. He picked me up 2 hours later, asking me how it went with an eagerness that matched my own. And Rachel. Rachel was everything I expected and nothing I expected all at once. She was beautiful, polished, put together in that effortless way that comes from generational wealth. She wore designer clothes that looked casual but probably cost more than my monthly grocery budget. Her hair was perfect. Her makeup was flawless. Her nails were manicured. She looked like she had walked off the pages of a fashion magazine. She was kind, at least on the surface. She smiled at my jokes. She asked me questions about my life, about raising 5 children, about what it was like being married for 30 years. She seemed genuinely interested, or at least she was good at pretending to be. She mentioned casually, as if it were nothing, that her parents had a place in the Hamptons. That she had spent summers in Europe as a child. That she had graduated from Yale. She seemed perfect. Too perfect. And that terrified me. Because there was something underneath the polish, something I could not quite put my finger on. A certain coolness in her eyes, maybe. Or the way she would touch Michael's arm possessively when he spoke. Or the subtle way she would redirect the conversation whenever I tried to share a memory about Michael's childhood. It was nothing overt. Nothing I could point to and say, "This is wrong." But my instincts, honed from 28 years of motherhood, were telling me something was off. Michael looked at her the way he had never looked at anything before. With absolute adoration. With the kind of devotion I had only ever seen in romantic movies. His eyes followed her everywhere. He hung on her every word. When she laughed, he lit up like she had given him the greatest gift in the world. And I was happy for him. I was. But I was also terrified. Because I knew, in that moment, sitting in that expensive restaurant watching my son gaze at this woman with stars in his eyes, that Rachel had become his priority. That I had been officially replaced. That whatever bond Michael and I had shared, it was nothing compared to what he felt for her. Over the next year, I saw Michael less and less. Rachel was always in the picture, a beautiful, gleaming presence that seemed to take up all the space, leaving no room for anyone else. When I suggested visiting them in New York, they were always busy. Rachel had work events. Michael had client dinners. They had plans with Rachel's family. They were traveling. There was always a reason, always an excuse. When I invited them to Connecticut for weekends, they had other obligations. Rachel's parents were having a party. They had tickets to a show. They were exhausted and needed time to relax. Just the two of them. Alone. And I accepted it because I did not want to be one of those mothers. You know the kind. The hovering, invasive, controlling mothers who cannot let their sons grow up. The mothers who see their sons' girlfriends as threats, as competition. I wanted to be cool about this. Modern. Understanding. I wanted Rachel to like me, to see me as an ally, not an enemy. But secretly, quietly, painfully, I was being erased. Deleted from my own son's life. And I could feel it happening, but I did not know how to stop it without confirming every terrible stereotype about clingy mothers. My other children noticed. Emily mentioned it one day when she was home for Christmas. "Mom, have you talked to Michael lately? I called him 3 times last week and he did not call me back." "He is busy," I said, making excuses for him the way I always did. "He is building his career. He is in a serious relationship. That is what happens when people grow up." But Emily looked at me with those wise, compassionate eyes of hers and said, "Mom, it is okay to miss him. It is okay to be hurt." And I had to look away because if I looked at her any longer, I would have started crying. And I could not cry about this. Because crying about it would mean admitting that something was wrong. That my relationship with my firstborn son was disintegrating. And I was not ready to admit that. Then came the wedding invitation. It arrived at my house on a cold day in December, 6 months before the event. The mailman handed it to me with a smile, and I stood in my driveway holding this thick, expensive envelope, knowing what it was before I even opened it. The invitation was beautiful. Cream-colored cardstock, heavy and luxurious. Gold lettering embossed so deeply you could feel it with your fingertips. "Michael Andrew Parker and Rachel Elizabeth Morrison request the pleasure of your company at their wedding. Please join us for the celebration of their love." I read those words over and over. I traced my finger across the letters, across my son's name, across this formal, distant invitation to the most important day of his life. My baby boy was getting married. My firstborn, the child who had made me a mother, was committing his life to someone else. And even though Rachel had been steadily taking him away from me, even though I barely saw him anymore, even though our conversations had become stilted and superficial, I still felt a surge of joy. Because this was a milestone. This was a moment I had been dreaming about since he was born. Seeing my son happy. Seeing him commit to someone. Being part of his life at one of its most important junctures. I immediately called Richard at work. "The invitation came," I said, my voice shaking with emotion. "Michael is really getting married." "I know, honey," Richard said gently. "Are you okay?" "I am," I said. "I am happy for him. I really am." And I was. But I was also terrified. Because weddings bring families together, and I was not sure where I fit in Michael's family anymore. I spent the next 6 months preparing for that wedding like it was my own. I dieted. I exercised. I lost 15 pounds. I had my hair done at a nice salon instead of the great clips I usually went to. I bought a dress, a beautiful, elegant navy blue dress that made me feel confident and sophisticated. I had my makeup professionally done the day before the wedding. I wanted to look perfect. I wanted Michael to see me and be proud. I wanted Rachel to see me and think, this is a woman worthy of respect. I built this whole fantasy in my head, and I held on to it like a life raft. Because deep down, underneath all the preparation and excitement, I was terrified. I was this frightened woman who felt like her son was slipping away, and I believed that this wedding could fix that. That being there, being beautiful, being supportive, it could restore the connection between us. How naive I was. How utterly, painfully naive. The wedding was scheduled for a Saturday in June. The most perfect time of year. James and Richard and I, we drove to New York on Friday afternoon. We had booked a modest hotel near the venue. Michael had suggested this hotel rather than offering to let us stay with him and Rachel at their apartment. It will be more convenient, he had said. You will have your own space, and you will not have to deal with all the wedding chaos. I knew what that meant. It meant they did not want us in their space. It meant we were guests, not family. But I did not acknowledge it. I smiled and said it sounded perfect. We had dinner alone in our hotel room that night. Sandwiches from a deli down the street. Richard could sense my nervousness. He always could, even after 30 years of marriage. Sometimes I thought he knew me better than I knew myself. You okay, honey? He asked, sitting on the edge of the bed, his tie loosened, his jacket draped over the chair. I am fine, I said, but I was not. I was terrified. I felt like I was standing on the edge of something enormous, and I did not know whether I was going to fly or fall. Michael is lucky to have you as his mother, Richard said, trying to comfort me. He knows that. I am sure he knows that. But I was not sure Michael thought that way. And it was eating me alive. It was keeping me awake at night, filling my mind with doubts and fears and worst-case scenarios. That night, I could not sleep. I lay next to Richard in the dark, listening to his steady breathing, feeling the weight of tomorrow pressing down on me. I ran through 1,000 scenarios in my mind. What if Rachel had convinced Michael that I was not welcome? What if there was tension, and I was the cause of it? What if I had read everything wrong, and Michael did not actually want me there at all? What if showing up was a mistake? What if I was about to be humiliated in front of everyone I knew? At 4 a.m, I finally gave up on sleep. I got up, showered in the dark so I would not wake Richard, and sat by the window of our hotel room, watching the city wake up. Watching taxis drive by. Watching early morning joggers. Watching the world continue on, indifferent to my pain. I sat there in the darkness, waiting for morning, feeling like I was waiting for my fate to be decided. The wedding was scheduled for 4 p.m. The ceremony would be at the New York Botanical Gardens, an absolutely stunning location. The reception would be at an upscale hotel nearby, the kind of place with crystal chandeliers and marble floors and a staff that could probably feed a small country with what they charged for one meal. We were supposed to arrive at the garden by 3:30. Plenty of time to find our seats, to say hello to relatives, to soak in the atmosphere. I got ready slowly, carefully. I put on that beautiful navy dress, the one I had spent hours shopping for. I did my makeup again, even though I had had it done professionally the day before, because I needed something to do with my shaking hands. I called Richard out of the shower 3 times to ask if I looked okay. Each time, he said yes, I looked beautiful. But I did not believe him. I did not believe anyone. By 2:30, we were ready. We got in a taxi and drove toward the Botanical Gardens. The weather was absolutely perfect, one of those June days that feels like a promise, like everything is going to be okay. The sky was brilliantly blue. The temperature was warm but not too hot. There was a gentle breeze. It was the kind of day people dream about for their weddings. We arrived at 20 minutes to 3. Early, but not too early. The garden was absolutely stunning. Flowers everywhere, bursting with color. Strings of lights hung between the trees, ready to create a magical atmosphere as the sun set. White chairs set up in perfect rows, facing an elaborate trellis covered in roses and ivy. It looked like something out of a fairy tale. I could see the trellis where Michael and Rachel would exchange their vows, and my eyes started to burn with tears. Good tears, I thought. Happy tears. This was really happening. My baby boy was really getting married. I was going to witness this moment. I was going to be part of this memory. An usher approached us as we got out of the taxi. Someone I did not recognize. A young man in an expensive suit, with a practiced smile and a small bouquet of flowers pinned to his lapel. "Good afternoon," he said warmly. "Are you here for the ceremony?" "Yes," I said, smiling back at him. "I am Michael's mother. This is my husband, Richard." I waited for him to smile, to say something like, "Of course, wonderful to meet you, Mrs. Parker." I waited for him to show me to a seat of honor, to treat me like the mother of the groom should be treated. But his face changed. Not dramatically. Not obviously. But I saw it. The subtle shift. The flicker of confusion in his eyes. Like I had just told him something he was not expecting. "Ah," he said slowly. Just one moment, please. Let me check with the wedding planner." He walked away quickly, speaking into a small headset, glancing back at us once. Richard took my hand. "What was that?" I asked, my voice tight with sudden anxiety. "Probably just checking seating arrangements," Richard said, but his voice was uncertain. He felt it too. Something was wrong. The usher came back with a woman who was clearly in charge. She had a clipboard and a headset and an air of stressed authority that comes from managing high-stakes events where everything has to be perfect. "Hello, Mrs. Parker," she said, and I noticed immediately that she did not offer her hand to shake. She did not smile. She looked uncomfortable. "There seems to be a small issue." My stomach dropped. Actually dropped, like I was in an elevator that had suddenly plunged 10 floors. "What kind of issue?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "Well, the bride and groom are being very particular about the guest list, as you might understand. And there is a question about your invitation." "My invitation?" I laughed nervously, a high-pitched sound that did not sound like me at all. "I am his mother. I received a formal invitation." The woman's face flushed slightly. "Yes, I understand that, Mrs. Parker. But let me just double-check with the couple. Why don't you and your husband wait right over there?" She pointed to a shaded area near some flowering trees, off to the side, away from where the other guests were gathering. We walked over there, and I felt the first real flutter of panic in my chest. Not a metaphorical flutter. An actual physical sensation, like my heart was beating irregularly, like my body was preparing for something terrible. "It is fine," Richard kept saying, squeezing my hand so hard it almost hurt. "It is absolutely fine. There has just been some mix-up with the seating chart. That is all. Just a mix-up." But we both knew it was not about seating. This was something else. Something worse. 5 minutes went by. Then 10. I watched people arriving. Relatives I recognized. Friends I had known for years. Business associates of Michael's. They all walked past us without noticing we were standing awkwardly to the side, separated from the flow of guests, isolated like we had some contagious disease. I felt like I was disappearing. Like I was becoming invisible right there in that beautiful garden, surrounded by flowers and sunshine and celebration. The wedding planner came back, and this time she had someone with her. A man in an expensive suit, with perfectly styled hair and an expression on his face that I had never seen directed at me before. An expression of cold determination. It was Michael. My son. My firstborn. The baby I had carried for 9 months. The child I had nursed and raised and loved with every fiber of my being. He was walking toward me with that expression, and I knew. I knew before he even opened his mouth that something terrible was about to happen. "Mom," Michael said, and there was something in his voice I had never heard before. Something that made me feel like I did not know him at all. Coldness. Authority. Distance. Like I was a stranger he was dismissing, not his mother. Michael, I said, standing up quickly. Honey, what is happening? Is everything okay? Is something wrong with the wedding? He looked at me, and I searched his face desperately for the boy I had raised. For my baby. For my son. For any sign of the person I knew. But he was gone. In his place was a stranger wearing Michael's face. I need to talk to you privately, he said flatly. He led me away from Richard, away from the arriving guests, to a secluded area behind the garden structure where the caterers were preparing food. Staff members glanced at us, then looked away quickly, pretending not to notice the drama unfolding. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it might break through my ribs. I could hear it in my ears, a deafening rhythm that drowned out everything else. Michael, you are scaring me. What is going on? Please, just tell me what is wrong. He took a breath. He looked down at his polished shoes. And then he said something that cracked my world open, that shattered everything I thought I knew. I think it would be better if you did not attend the wedding today. I think I stopped breathing. I am not sure. The world seemed to stop moving. Time froze. Everything froze. What? I whispered. It was all I could manage. This is my wedding day, he continued, still not making eye contact. It is supposed to be about me and Rachel. About our love. About our future. And I cannot have you here, because you are going to make this about you. You always do. Michael, I do not understand. What are you talking about? I would never make your wedding about me. I just want to be here. I just want to support you. My therapist has been helping me work through some things, he said, and now there was an edge to his voice, a rehearsed quality, like he had practiced this speech. And one of those things is the codependency I have with you. The way you have always used me to fill some void in your own life. I have been working on establishing boundaries. Healthy boundaries. I felt the world tilt. The ground beneath my feet seemed to shift. Boundaries? Michael, I am your mother. I have been your entire support system since you were born. I have given you everything. Exactly, he said, and now he did look at me, and his eyes were cold. So cold. I have been your entire life. And Rachel has helped me understand how unhealthy that is. How manipulative it is. How I have been carrying the weight of your emotional needs my entire life. Manipulative? My voice rose without my permission, sharp with pain and disbelief. Michael, I have never manipulated you. Everything I have done, every single thing, I did because I love you. Because you are my son. And that is exactly what I am talking about, he said, his voice rising to match mine. You love me in this way that is suffocating. You need me to need you. You cannot let me have my own life. It is not healthy. My therapist says it is a form of emotional abuse. Emotional abuse. He had just called my love, my devotion, my entire life's work, emotional abuse. I stood there, feeling like I had been struck across the face. 30 years of sacrifice, of dedication, of putting his needs before my own. 30 years of choosing him over myself, again and again and again. And he was calling it manipulation. He was calling it abuse. I do not accept this, I heard myself say, my voice shaking but getting stronger. Michael, I came here to celebrate with you. I want to support you. That is what mothers do. That is what family does. No, he said, shaking his head firmly. Mothers do not do what you do. You make everything about yourself. You remind me how much you have given up for me every chance you get. You make me feel guilty for having my own life, for moving away, for not calling you every single day. You cannot let me go. I have never asked you to feel guilty. I have never tried to hold you back. All I have ever wanted is for you to be happy. Then prove it, he said sharply. Prove it by respecting my wishes. I need you to go. Leave the wedding. Go back to the hotel. Or go back to Connecticut. I do not care. But you cannot stay here. Michael, please, I said, and I was crying now. I did not care who saw it. I did not care about dignity or pride or maintaining composure. This was my son. My baby. Please do not do this. Not today. Please let me stay. Let me be here for you. I am sorry for whatever I did. I am sorry if I made you feel suffocated. But do not do this. Do not throw away 30 years of love because of what some therapist told you. Do not let Rachel poison your mind against me. His face hardened. Do not talk about Rachel that way. She has been nothing but kind to you. This is not about her. This is about you and me. About our unhealthy relationship. About the fact that I cannot breathe around you. Cannot breathe? I was sobbing now, gasping for air myself. Michael, I have spent my entire life making sure you could breathe. Making sure you had everything you needed. How dare you say that to me? The decision is made, he said coldly, and he turned away from me. Dad is handling it with security. You have 5 minutes to leave voluntarily before they escort you out. And just like that, he was gone. He walked back toward the ceremony area, his posture straight, his head high, and he did not look back. Not once. I stood frozen in place, unable to comprehend what had just happened. Around me, I could hear the garden sounds. Birds chirping happily. Water trickling peacefully in the fountains. The murmur of arriving guests, excited for the celebration. It was the most beautiful day, and I felt like I was dying. Actually dying, right there among the flowers. I do not know how long I stood there. Minutes. Hours. Time felt like it did not exist anymore. The world had stopped making sense. Finally, Richard found me. He was pale, his face showing the shock and pain that mirrored my own. His eyes were red, like he had been crying too. Come on, he said quietly, his voice thick with emotion. We need to go. I cannot, I whispered. I cannot leave. This is my son's wedding. I am his mother. I have a right to be here. Evelyn, he has asked us to leave. He has made his choice. I am so sorry, but we have to respect that. Why? I asked, and I was surprised by the anger that suddenly flooded through me, hot and fierce, replacing the shock. Why should I respect that? Why should I just accept being humiliated in front of 300 people? Why should I accept being blamed for loving my son too much? Why should I let him erase me? Richard did not answer. There was no answer to give. What could he say? That our son was right? That I was manipulative and suffocating? Or that our son was wrong, but we had to leave anyway because causing a scene would make things worse? We started walking back toward the front of the garden, toward the exit, toward the taxis. And as we walked, I became aware of the looks. The stares. The whispers. Guests who had already arrived were watching us. They had seen the wedding planner approach us. They had seen Michael take me aside. They had seen me crying. And they knew. Somehow, they all already knew that I was being thrown out. I saw my sister-in-law, Margaret, Richard's mother, standing near the entrance. Her face was pale with shock. She opened her mouth like she wanted to say something, but no words came out. What could she say? Her grandson had just thrown his own mother out of his wedding. I saw Emily standing with Daniel and Olivia near one of the garden pathways. My other children. My beautiful children. Emily's hand was over her mouth, her eyes wide with horror. Daniel looked like he wanted to punch something. Olivia was crying. They had witnessed their brother's cruelty, and they were powerless to stop it. My face felt like it was on fire. Humiliation. That particular brand of public humiliation is a unique kind of torture. It is not just the pain of rejection. It is the knowledge that other people are witnessing that rejection. They are forming judgments. They are storing the memory of your shame in their minds forever. They are going to go home tonight and tell their families about the mother who got thrown out of her son's wedding. I was going to be a story. A cautionary tale. The crazy mother who could not let go. We made it to the exit. The usher who had approached us earlier was trying very hard not to look at us. His face was red with embarrassment for what he was witnessing. And then something cracked inside me. Not the fragile, careful part of me that had been holding everything together for 50 years. Not the part that tried to be good and kind and understanding. Something harder cracked. Something deeper. Something that had been waiting for 30 years, maybe 50 years, maybe my entire life, to speak. I stopped walking. I am not leaving, I said. Richard turned back to me, shocked. Evelyn, please. Do not make this worse. Worse? I laughed, but it was not a happy sound. It was the sound of something breaking. How could this possibly be worse? My son just threw me out of his wedding. In front of everyone. Because his therapist convinced him that loving him was abuse. How exactly could this be worse? What are you doing? Richard whispered, his face flushing with embarrassment and fear. What I should have been doing for the past 30 years, I said, and my voice was getting louder. Standing up for myself. I turned around and walked back toward the ceremony area. My hands were shaking. My heart was pounding. My entire body was trembling with adrenaline and fear and rage and pain. But I kept walking. One foot in front of the other. Back toward the people who were about to witness something they would never forget. The wedding planner intercepted me immediately. Mrs. Parker, I am going to need you to leave the premises. Now. No, I said, and my voice was loud now. Clear. Strong. I am not leaving. I was invited to this wedding. I am a guest here. I am the mother of the groom. And I am going to attend this wedding. Around us, guests were stopping mid-conversation. Heads were turning. People were staring. This was not the quiet, dignified exit Michael had expected. This was drama. Real, raw, unscripted drama. If you do not leave voluntarily, I will have to call security, the planner said, but I could see the uncertainty in her eyes. She did not want this. She did not want to physically remove a 50-year-old woman from her son's wedding. The optics would be terrible. This would overshadow the entire event. Then call security, I said loudly. Go ahead. Call them. Have them drag me out of this garden while 300 people watch. Have them physically remove the mother of the groom from his wedding. Is that what Michael wants? Is that really the wedding day he has dreamed of? Having his mother dragged out by security guards? The planner's face went pale. She looked around desperately, probably searching for Michael, for Rachel, for someone to tell her what to do. And then Michael appeared, looking panicked and angry. Mom, please. Please just go. Do not do this. And then, in that moment, I did something I had never done before in his entire life. Something I had never allowed myself to do. I ignored him. Michael, I said loudly, clearly, making sure everyone within hearing distance could listen. I would like you to hear what I have to say. Right here. Right now. In front of God and all these people who came here to celebrate your love. Mom, no. Please. Do not do this. But I kept going. Because I had been silent for too long. Because I had swallowed my pain for too many years. Because if I did not speak now, I never would. My name is Evelyn Parker. I am 50 years old. I am the woman who gave birth to you after carrying you in my body for 9 months. I am the woman who woke up every 2 hours for the first 6 months of your life to feed you, to change you, to hold you when you cried. I am the woman who stayed up all night when you had a fever, who rushed you to the emergency room when you fell off your bike and broke your arm, who sat beside your hospital bed praying you would be okay. I am the woman who worked alongside your father to provide for you. Who went without new clothes so you could have school supplies. Who chose your needs over my own wants, every single time, without question, without resentment. I am the woman who drove to every school event. Who celebrated every achievement like you had just won an Olympic medal. Who listened to your problems and tried to solve them even when I did not have the answers. Who loved you so unconditionally, so completely, that my love sometimes scared me with its intensity. And I did all of that, all of it, not because I wanted you to owe me something. Not because I expected anything in return. Not because I was trying to manipulate you or control you or make you feel guilty. I did it because you are my son. Because that is what love is. It is showing up. It is choosing someone else's happiness over your own comfort, every single time. But somewhere along the way, my love became a problem. My sacrifice became manipulation. My presence became suffocating. My devotion became abuse. When did that happen, Michael? When did loving you stop being okay? When did being your mother become a crime I needed to be punished for? I paused, letting the words land. The garden was completely silent now. Even the birds seemed to have stopped chirping. 300 people were listening to every word. You say your therapist helped you understand boundaries. Well, I understand boundaries too. And I want to tell you something about them. Healthy boundaries are not about pushing people away. They are not about cutting off the people who love you. They are about being clear and honest about what you need. If you needed space from me, Michael, you could have told me that. You could have said, Mom, I need to establish my independence. I need to see you less frequently. I need to work on myself. And you know what? I would have respected that. I would have been hurt, sure. I would have cried. But I would have done it. Because that is what mothers do. We want our children to be happy, even when their happiness means we suffer. But that is not what happened, is it? What happened is you let someone else convince you that my love was toxic. That my presence in your life was damaging. That the woman who raised you was actually harming you. And instead of talking to me about it like an adult, like the man I raised you to be, you humiliated me. You threw me out of your wedding. You made me invisible. You told me, in public, in front of my family and friends and strangers, that 30 years of devotion were not enough. That I was not welcome. That I was the problem. My voice was shaking now, but I kept going. I had come this far. I could not stop now. And I want you to know something, Michael. I want everyone here to know something. I do not regret it. I do not regret any of it. Not one single sacrifice. Not one night I went to bed exhausted. Not one time I chose your needs over mine. Because you are my son, and I love you. But I also need to tell you something, and I need you to hear this clearly. I will not accept your blame for your life. I will not carry the guilt of loving too hard. And I will not let you rewrite our history to fit whatever narrative makes you feel better about yourself. The truth is, you are a good man. You are smart and capable and kind. And that is not because I suffocated you or manipulated you. That is because I raised you with love and values and support. That is my legacy. Not your pain, not your emotional baggage, but who you have become. The good parts of you, those came from love. From sacrifice. From a mother who refused to give up on you even when it was hard. So yes, I came to your wedding today. Not to make it about me, as you accused. But because I am your mother, and I wanted to celebrate this moment in your life. I wanted to see you happy. I wanted to be part of this memory, part of this milestone. But I will not beg for the privilege of being your mother. I will not grovel. I will not crawl. I will not accept public humiliation as the price of admission to my own son's life. So here is what I am saying, Michael. I am saying goodbye. I took a deep breath. This was the hardest part. The part that would change everything. Not forever, necessarily. Not if you decide you want to have an actual relationship with me. A relationship based on honesty and respect and truth. But as of right now, I am letting you go. I am releasing you from the burden of having a mother who loves you. I am taking back my power. I am taking back my life. I am taking back my dignity. And I am going to stop apologizing for loving you. I turned to look at Rachel, who was standing off to the side, her face pale, her perfect makeup unable to hide her shock. To Rachel, I want to say this. I hope you treat my son with more kindness than you have shown me. I hope you use your influence for good, not for division. Because what you have done here, convincing a man to reject his own mother on the most important day of his life, that is not love. That is control. That is manipulation. And maybe you do not realize that yet. Maybe you think you are helping him. But someday, maybe when you have children of your own, you will understand what you have taken from him today. You have taken away his chance to have his mother at his wedding. You cannot get that back. That moment is gone forever. And to everyone here, to all of you who came to celebrate love today, I want to say thank you. Thank you for witnessing this moment. Thank you for seeing that sometimes, the bravest thing a person can do is speak their truth, even when the cost is high. Thank you for allowing me to be visible, even in my pain. You have heard my son's version of our relationship. The version where I am the villain. The manipulative mother. The suffocating presence. But now you have heard my version too. And I will let you decide for yourselves who is telling the truth. And to myself, to the woman I have been for 50 years, I want to say this. I am proud of you. I am proud that you showed up today. I am proud that you did not slink away quietly with your head down. I am proud that you found your voice, even though it took 50 years to use it. That is growth. That is strength. That is courage. So I am leaving now. I am going to go back to my hotel. And tomorrow, I am going to go back to my life. The life I have built. The life that includes 4 other children who value me. The husband who has stood by me for 30 years. The friends who actually appreciate my presence. The things that matter to me. And I am going to be okay. Because I was okay before I knew Michael. I was a whole person when he was born. And I am a whole person now. My worth is not dependent on his approval. My value is not determined by his acceptance. I am enough. By myself. As I am. Right now. And that, Michael, is something your therapist never taught you. That the greatest gift a parent can give their child is showing them how to be whole. How to be complete. How to love themselves so thoroughly that they do not need someone else to validate their existence. I thought I had taught you that. I thought I had modeled that for you. But clearly, I failed. Or maybe I succeeded too well, and now you do not think you need anyone at all. Not even your own mother. So I am going to go now. I am going to leave you to your wedding, to your Rachel, to your new life that you have decided I am not part of. And I am going to wish you happiness, genuinely, because that is what mothers do. We love even when it hurts. We hope even when it is hopeless. And we let go even when every fiber of our being screams that we should hold on. You are a man now, Michael. 30 years old. Old enough to make your own decisions. Old enough to live with the consequences. I hope you can live with this one. I hope you can live with the memory of throwing your mother out of your wedding. I hope it was worth it. Goodbye, son. I turned around and walked out of that garden with my head held high. I did not look at Michael. I did not look at Rachel. I did not look at the 300 people who were staring at me in stunned silence. I did not cry. I did not run. I walked slowly, deliberately, with as much dignity as I could gather. Richard followed me, and we walked to the edge of the garden together. The silence behind us was deafening. No one knew what to say. No one knew what to do. I had just done something no one expected. I had spoken truth to power. I had refused to be silenced. We got into a taxi, and only then did I start to shake. My whole body trembled with the adrenaline of what I had just done. Richard put his arm around me and pulled me close. That was something, he said finally, his voice full of emotion. It was necessary, I replied. It was 30 years overdue. We went back to the hotel. I called the front desk and extended our stay by one night. I could not drive home yet. I needed time to process what had just happened. To understand the enormity of what I had done. I went up to our room, took off that beautiful navy dress, and sat on the bed for a very long time. Richard sat beside me, not saying anything, just being present. Being there. The way he always had been. My phone started ringing. Emily. Daniel. Olivia. Joshua. Relatives. Friends. People who had been at the wedding, people who had witnessed everything, wanting to know what had happened, where I had gone, if I was okay. I did not answer. Instead, I turned the phone off. I needed silence. I needed space to feel everything I was feeling without having to explain it to anyone else. The next morning, Richard and I drove back to Connecticut. 5 hours of silence. 5 hours of processing. 5 hours of feeling everything and nothing all at once. Michael did not call. He did not text. He did not reach out in any way. And that was when I understood. What had happened at the wedding was not about me setting a boundary. It was about both of us making choices. I had chosen to speak my truth. And Michael had chosen to let me go. It has been 6 months since the wedding. 6 months of learning who I am outside of being Michael's mother. 6 months of the most painful, transformative growth I have ever experienced. And I want to tell you, it has been hard. So hard. There have been nights when I have cried myself to sleep. There have been moments when I have wanted to call Michael, to apologize, to try to fix things. There have been days when the pain of his absence has been so overwhelming that I could barely function. But there have also been moments of incredible clarity. Moments of peace. Moments when I have realized that I am more than just a mother. I am a wife. I am a friend. I am a sister. I am a daughter. I am a woman with interests and passions and dreams that have nothing to do with my children. I have spent time reconnecting with friends I had neglected. I joined a book club. I started taking pottery classes, something I have always wanted to do but never had time for. Richard and I have traveled, just the two of us, to places we have always talked about visiting. We went to Maine. We went to the Grand Canyon. We spent a week in Charleston, walking through historic streets and eating amazing food and remembering what it was like to just be us. I have read books. I have taken long walks. I have learned to be alone without feeling lonely. I have learned that my worth does not depend on my children needing me. And yes, it has been hard. So hard. There have been moments when I have wanted to reach out to Michael, when I have wanted to fix things, when I have felt the old pull of maternal guilt trying to drag me back into that suffocating dynamic. But each time, I remember that speech. I remember standing in that garden. I remember finding my voice. Because sometimes, the most loving thing a mother can do is let her child go. Let them face the consequences of their choices. Let them grow up. I do not know if Michael and I will ever have a real relationship again. Maybe we will. Maybe someday he will realize that his therapist was wrong. That Rachel's influence poisoned his perspective of me. Maybe he will grow up enough to understand that people can love imperfectly and still love truly. Or maybe he will not. Maybe this is just who we are now. A mother and son who cannot find their way back to each other. And if that is the case, then I will grieve that loss. I will mourn what we could have been. But I will not let it destroy me. Because what I know for certain now is this. I will not spend the rest of my life apologizing for loving my son. I will not carry his rejection as proof of my failure. I will not let his shame become my shame. My other children have rallied around me. Emily calls me every week. Daniel flew home just to spend a weekend with me, to make sure I was okay. Olivia sends me texts with funny memes and pictures of her art. Joshua, my quiet, thoughtful youngest, told me he was proud of me for standing up for myself. They saw what happened. They witnessed their brother's cruelty. And they chose differently. They chose me. And that matters more than I can say. Richard has been my rock through all of this. He has held me when I cried. He has listened when I needed to talk. He has given me space when I needed to be alone. He has reminded me, over and over, that I am worthy of love and respect. I am Evelyn Parker. I am 50 years old. I am a wife of 30 years. I am a mother of 5 children, though right now I only have a relationship with 4 of them. I am strong. I am worthy. And I am finally, after all these years, at peace with myself. Thank you for listening to my story. If you have experienced something similar, if you have been rejected or blamed or made invisible by the people you love most, please know that you are not alone. Please know that your worth is not determined by their acceptance. Please know that there is life and healing and peace on the other side of that pain. You deserve to be happy. You deserve to be loved. You deserve to matter. Do not let anyone, not even your own children, convince you otherwise. Stand up for yourself. Speak your truth. Take back your power. Because you are enough. You have always been enough. And you will continue to be enough, with or without their approval. Do not forget that.